Welcome to Tales from the Fandom, a podcast that brings a special guest out of the multiverse and straight to you. And now your host, David Ginsburg.
Welcome to a special episode of Tales from the Fandom for the month of December 2017. I have reached out to a few of my favorite guests from the past, and I am glad to have Jeremy, aka Stryfe the Warrior, come back and join me from the great state of Texas. How are you doing, Jeremy?
I'm doing fine, David. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. It's been a while since we've talked, to do like a podcast episode, but you and I are always bouncing back and forth with each other on the social media sites. So it's been a pleasure to, keep our relationship going since our recording. I think we recorded sometime in July of 2016. Your episode came out in September of 2016, and we've passed that year mark of that episode being out, and it's one of the stronger performers. Like I told you off the recording that you had you have a huge following in Texas.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing just to kind of still to realize that it was still one of the most downloaded episodes. I didn't think a lot of people would be interested in hearing about my fandoms, but man, I really thank you for the opportunity of me, having me here on the show, and I'm looking forward to recording this episode with you.
Absolutely. And one of the things that struck me is when we had originally talked, you had done some cosplay. You'd done Falco and Ness and Green Ranger, and I think Black Ranger, right, is your other Power Ranger cosplay, right? I just want to make sure.
Oh, sorry. I was saying I did the Ninjetti version of the Black Ranger. Yes, sir.
Right. Okay. And you had gotten those were like your four rotations of cosplay. And then I remember as time was going on, like all of a sudden you were now one of those like cosplayers who was a con guest and you were hosting panels. And I was like, wow, this guy's like blowing up like all like just out of the blue as far as like, from my perspective. And that was cool to see, like to have recorded and talked with you and then just see you just start getting like that recognition and everything.
Yeah, it's been pretty crazy. It's just one of those things that started kind of like snowballing right after the other, and just a lot of stuff started happening really fast. And it was really cool to do, one of my first solo guest con appearances, especially in my hometown of Victoria, Texas. So that was also one of my first cons, I would say, after A-Con in San Japan. So it kind of came full circle. How I pretty much attended the con every year because it was right there in my hometown. And then to be a guest, in 2017, that was just it's really amazing.
Now, I'm curious to know, like, what's it like being a guest at a con? Because it seems like you're probably going to have to like get up early and then go down and you're at the con pretty much all day into the evening, and you're doing that for however many days the con is. That just seems like a very long time. And there, like, I imagine there's like busy times and like a lull, and like, what's it like? Like, what is that con guest life like at that point?
Yeah, it was, it's different. It's different being on the other side of the table. So to speak. It usually depends on the con hours too, but to give an example, when I did Victoria, most Saturday, and what I've seen generally too with most Comic-Cons on Saturdays, they're usually open, 10 to 6, 10 to 5. So usually, like, especially on a Saturday, people will kind of line up right there, especially if they have like, VIP passes or whatnot. It would be pretty busy. I would say like late morning, early afternoon, and then it kind of dies off, close to the end of the con hours, because usually the convention center shuts down. And at that point, depending on the area, people go to an after party or they'll hang out that night. And then Sundays, you see a little bit more traffic. Not really. A lot of people also still go to church during that, during the morning and then whatnot. So as far as that goes, yeah, there is lull times. I try to make the best of that too. I usually like to talk with my, I call them my booth neighbors, like the people that I'm, put next to at the con. So, at that point, I'll just like take pictures or we'll talk and, share stories and all kinds of stuff. But it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool because of, you kind of get to showcase, what you've done at that point as far as like, your work of art, whether it's cosplay, prints, props that you've made. It was definitely interesting to see like people buy prints and stuff like that, because it's just like one of those things you don't really grasp until you're right there And then, like, I'd like to have a signed picture of you. And, it's always fun. I've never really been shy, like taking pictures at cons. So I was kind of used to that, but it's really good. It's really good to get your name out there, especially if you're trying to just to see like, hey, this is what I can do. And it was also very interesting too, because, right before the convention, I actually got interviewed by the local paper. So that kind of like helped that too. And then because Victoria, is so small, it's the crossroads of Texas. We're 2 hours from Houston, Austin, San Antonio, hour and a half from Corpus. A lot of people don't really think that there are people that cosplay or, especially because, the con had just started about 3 or 4 years ago. And then, to have somebody like, oh, hey, local guy, he actually cosplays and, he's going to be a guest at the convention. I think it kind of really like opened up people's perspective of cosplay and, comic convention. So.
Absolutely. And one of the things, and I remember after we had recorded, there's a time where we were talking back and forth about, I think it was maybe even in the early stages of your like putting together a panel about the cosplay community. And then I know that it's been recorded about like the panels that you've done, but for people that haven't like followed you maybe on Facebook or Instagram, what is your panel topic that you generally present when you're at these cons?
So the panel that I've done is actually, I can't remember if I talked about this on the last episode or not, but I'll kind of just reiterate just in case. I had started a support group called Come As You Are, where basically both cosplayers and non-cosplayers can just have a safe haven to where if they're struggling with issues such as depression, anxiety, self-confidence, anything like that, they can kind of have just a safe haven to where they can go and, just be themselves and not have to worry about being judged by others. It was just a very accepting place, mainly because I had struggled with anxiety and depression for so long. I didn't want anybody else to have to go through what I went through. So it kind of came to the point to where I wanted to talk about, issues like that at the panel. So the panel I had the pleasure of hosting at A-Kon was called Positivity and Support in the Cosplay Community, which kind of branched off of, the group's main idea. What we basically talked is, topics such as, why anybody should be able to cosplay, how to avoid drama with the community, how to support each other. Because a lot of people, especially if they're new to cons or they go to the cons for the first time, I guess sometimes they don't realize, I'm trying to think the best way to put it. They don't realize, sometimes, just like in every other community, there's drama and there's negativity and stuff. So we were mainly was trying to spread the positive vibes, and especially what to do if, you see somebody that's, having trouble or feeling down at the convention. So the first panel we did was at A-Kon. And that one was really cool because A-Kon was my first ever con. It's the longest running anime convention in the U.S. So it was really cool getting to talk about something that passionate at a convention. And man, I tell you what, I was nervous because I didn't really know what to expect. But we had a good turnout, and then everything kind of went well, and there was a really positive received, and we got a lot of feedback during the panel too, which we wanted. We wanted people to be able to share their experiences and whatnot. And I do have some of those links I can show you later of the panels that we got filmed. I also did the panel 2 more times, which was at Anime Fest and with at Anime Fest in San Japan. I had in the duration of those 3 panels, I had 3 different people that ran them with me. I had my friend Kaida Cosplay, and I also had my friend Little Man Cosplay and my friend Sledge Cosplay. They all basically helped me run the Come As You Are group as admins. And they were all 3 of them were people I felt that were able to talk about the topic with me. And then thankfully, we were able to get everything done in a professional manner. And it came out to be a really good show out, and the panel went really well.
That's what I've heard. And, it's strange for me because I record with a lot of cosplayers, and I've said it a lot in many of the shows. It's very easy to find people that want to talk about what they're into because you're already investing so much time into, dressing up as the character, making props, making the costumes, and just being out there. And one of the things that kind of caught me off guard with talking to people, whether it's just on the recordings or just, on social media or email, is that the cosplay community very welcoming, but then there's sometimes where there just seems to be like out of nowhere like drama of epic proportions, and just seeing that like happen and the way that it just rolls through the community at times is it's just mind boggling. And I'm glad that there's, you know, people out there, you know, that you like you and your other administrators and, you know, your group that you have, like giving that place for people to come to. Or I know that one of the things that you do is you're like, hey, look out for those people that are cosplaying like the first time coming to a con, because they don't know what to expect, and you need to kind of be you need to be like a I almost want to use like the Japanese word like senpai, you know, to kind of like help them into like understanding like the ins and outs of going to a convention and what to look out for, and you know, the best ways to do certain things. And it's just like, I think that's one of the greatest things that I've seen is just the level of support that you and a lot of the people around you give to like newer cosplayers.
I appreciate that. Yeah, well, like the main thing is too, you know, regarding negativity, I was bullied quite a bit, like most of my life, especially in school, and like that's one thing I cannot stand is, you know, people bullies, and I especially don't want them in the cosplay community. I mean, it's just, you know, we're all there to have fun. Like the last thing you want to deal with is something you already deal with, you know, day to day life. So, and kind of like what you were saying, just to look out. That's also kind of why I've earned the nickname of Con Pops or Con Dad too, because I've kind of been around for quite a bit now on the con circuit, and a lot of people kind of see me at conventions because I run through them pretty frequently. So, you have like your Con Dads, your Con Moms too; those are kind of common too, and I think you definitely want to look out, you know, for the other guys too, and especially just me from my personal standpoint. I've always wanted to be that kind of guy to look out for people, because I don't want anybody to deal with anything negative that I've already dealt with. I feel like if I can help somebody avoid that, you know, I'm going to do my best to.
I think, and you know, I talk to people from all over, and I have to say, like the people that I talk with from Texas, I think you were one of my first Texas recordings, and I've recorded with several other people from Texas, and it seems like the Texas cosplay community is just one that's really friendly and really like helpful to each other. Or maybe it's just like the people that I follow amongst you and a few of the others, and it just seems like, though, that it seems like it's like a tight-knit community of people like really looking out for each other for the most part.
Yeah, I think a lot of it too is just because of a lot of these cons, you know, they're very close together. Well, for one, I mean, you know, I have a lot of friends that are in the Dallas Fort Worth area. There's quite a bit of cons that go up there. You know, of course, you have A-Kon, Anime Fest, and you have the big comic shows that happen up there in Dallas. And you know, Dallas is maybe 3.5 hours from Austin, but you got a couple cons there. And then, of course, San Antonio has a really big cosplay community too, as far as like conventions. And of course, you have Houston. And you got some people down in the valley too, and in Corpus. I actually had the experience of going to my first valley convention too, and like a lot of people. And since the valley, I wouldn't say the valley's so small, but the conventions kind of run very close to each other. That happen there in the Rio Grande Valley. A lot of people know each other there too. So I think it's just because you know, a lot of these conventions are very close in driving distance to one another. You see a lot of people that run in the same circles. I know quite a bit of people that, you know, I always see it at conventions too, just because they're within distance. And with, you know, kind of what I was saying earlier with Victoria, where I reside in, it's kind of like that for me too, because again, I'm like 2 hours from Austin, Houston, San Antonio, hour and a half from Corpus. The only place that's really further from me is Dallas, which is about 4.5, 5 hours. So I have that slight advantage of being able to go to like the different conventions in almost any direction.
Yeah, that makes it to be a little easier, rather than having to be like, okay, am I going to drive like 8 hours to a convention or 7 hours, or have to fly somewhere? And Texas just seems like it's got such a great diverse, you know, fan population, whether it's like anime or just regular conventions in general, and you guys have everything.
Oh yeah, it's been pretty cool. I've been able to meet quite a lot of cool guests. You know, the conventions I've been to. I've been fortunate to meet almost And, the only person I was able to meet is because she passed away in 2001. Rest in peace, Trini. But I've been able to meet every Power Ranger from Mighty Morphin from season 1 to 3, all here in Texas. It's over the span of like a couple years. So I think they definitely, and the other thing is too, you also have Funimation right there in, Dallas Fort Worth. So it's very easy to see like a lot of the good big name guests being brought here in Texas, especially, of course, like even got a lot of good wrestlers. Unfortunately, I didn't get to meet him that day, but Sting was there when I went to the, I think it was South Texas Comic-Con, which is the convention I was at, and I wanted to meet him there, and I didn't get a chance to. Booker T usually frequents the Houston conventions because he's from around that area. I had the privilege to meet Scott Norton earlier this year, actually, in my hometown con. He was really nice. I've met Kevin Nash, Lita. There's one more. I can't think of his name. And of course, like, you got the big Houston shows. I've seen Ted DiBiase there as a guest. I've seen Bobby the Brain Heenan. So you got like a really good diversity of guests all over Texas in the conventions.
Definitely. And that's so cool. And I remember, I think we were talking about when we recorded your episode that you were looking forward to maybe getting to see, I think it's Amy Jo Johnson at the time. I don't know if she had come around at that point, but you were looking forward to hopefully getting to have her, get to do a meet and greet with her.
Yeah, she was. I did get to meet her. She was the last Ranger I had to meet. I got to meet her at Alamo City Comic Con. She has not aged whatsoever, which is pretty cool. She's very nice, very sweet. It was kind of tough because that was her first Texas appearance, so they were trying to get people in and out as fast as they could, but she tried to take her time with every fan. She wasn't necessarily rushing, so she was really cool. And then I've heard, at the other conventions that she's been to, she's been the same way. So I haven't really heard anything bad things about her, but really nice, really sweet. So it was kind of came full circle, watching somebody that, on TV that you admired and everything. And of course, being able to take a picture with them, so many years later, and like cosplay from the same fandom, it was just mind blowing.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, last time we talked was 2016. We're currently in 2017. Is there any fandoms that you kind of got into that you'd love to like get more people turned on to, whether it's like TV shows or movies or comics, video games? Like, what has been your thing this year for the 2017 year?
Oh man, that's kind of tough. I'm trying to really think because I know one of the things I actually started getting more into, especially this year, was like some of my cosplays was fighting games. I think I might have talked about those briefly. I actually was able to get back into Tekken and of course King of Fighters with a couple of new cosplays that debuted this year, which was Kazuya Mishima from Tekken, and then of course Geese Howard from King of Fighters. Those are definitely games I grew up with as well. I admired both of those guys mainly because of as far as a villain, not that I would say like they're my role models. I don't think I would ever aspire to be I don't think I could ever aspire to be a mob boss. It's funny because my friend commented saying like I'd be too nice to be a mob boss. So, but those are a lot of fun. I think a lot of people prefer King of Fighters over Street Fighter. It's just because of the story's a little bit more in depth. You have a little bit more developed characters too, and then because you're doing a crossover, King of Fighters is SNK's over crossover series. You get like, several games that they choose characters to crossover from, which is really cool. And, of course they clash with Capcom with like, Capcom versus SNK or, SNK versus Capcom, SVC Chaos. It's just like really cool, seeing dream matchups like that. And of course Tekken, Tekken 7 just came out and, everybody's really hype about that. I'm actually really digging, the new fighting system that they had. I have a little bit of I'm trying to think, a little bit of bone to pick with some of the super moves because they now have super moves to where you can, if you get low on energy, you just press a button and then you can really change the match, which I guess is like a double-edged sword because it slightly takes away from the traditional Tekken gameplay style, but at the same time, it can, definitely even the odds in a fight. So, but it's kind of cool too because speaking of King of Fighters, they've actually announced Geese Howard from King of Fighters as DLC for this winter, which is pretty insane. Because it was insane enough that, they added Akuma from Street Fighter in the mix, and now they're adding, Geese Howard from Tekken. Or excuse me, Geese Howard into Tekken. And Geese Howard is one of the one of the villains that's been around just as long as M. Bison has in Street Fighter. So another fandom, not that a new one that I've really been taken in, but one that I've actually been a fan of a long time. I didn't really get a chance to talk about last time because it was kind of that slipped in back of my mind, but because of me cosplaying as Final Fantasy. I've always been a bit of a Final Fantasy fan, especially with Kingdom Hearts. Final Fantasy VII was my first linear, core title Final Fantasy game, which was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
So many emotions. I can imagine playing that game when I was 12 years old, especially with, it's been 20 years, so there's no really spoiler alerts this time around, but, one of the main characters dies, Aerith, which is like the love interest for the protagonist you play as, Cloud Stryfe, which is where I got my last name from. So with like a shocking, turn of events like that, it's just like I could go, man, there's so much stuff I can think about. This podcast would end up being like a 5-hour podcast, but to the digression, Final Fantasy is just like definitely one of those good series you got to get into. Everybody has their favorite one. 10 is also another favorite one of mine, which I just cosplayed from as Waka. 10 was very revolutionary at the time. It was the first Final Fantasy game to have voice acting, so you had like even another dimension added to the characters, because most of the time you would just be reading the text and reading the characters' voices in your own head, but and of course, like cutscenes and whatnot. And that one had a really, really good storyline and whatnot. Plot twists and stuff like that too. It touches on the themes of, fighting your fears, fighting your past, taking a stand for what you believe in. The characters are, really, really great. There's actually a couple more characters I want to cosplay from in the future, which is Seymour, who's a secondary villain in that game, and a younger version of Orin, who's another guardian in that game as well. So
awesome. Yeah, I love Final Fantasy X. It's my second favorite behind Final Fantasy IV, just because nostalgia reasons, growing up with the Super Nintendo, playing it with, sleepovers with friends and playing all night and going through that story. But Final Fantasy X, man, that is one of my favorite games. I've got it for like the PlayStation 4.
Nice.
I don't have time to play it, but I have it. And I think my favorite, because I love, the cutscenes are phenomenal, but one of my favorites is like they're going to stop the wedding and they get out of the airship and they're sliding down those cables.
Ooh,
and the whole like Yuna wedding scene, and then she like tosses herself off the building, and those were my favorite scenes right there.
Yeah, it's funny too. That was another thing I forgot to mention. The remastered edition, we're actually me and my girlfriend are replaying right now through on PS3. We actually just got to the point to where you can kind of get all the side quests done and all the weapons and stuff like that. So we're trying to do that. But yeah, that was probably definitely one of my favorite scenes in the game too, growing up. And it's funny too, because the last time I had played it when I was like 13 or 14 in 8th grade, when it was still on the PS2, there's some different, I noticed with the music and stuff like that. I think some of the tracks came out better than what they were, and some of them didn't. But it's very cool because it has very like a sharp look now. The face of the characters are recognized, or are more revamped, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of cool because it has Final Fantasy X-2, which I haven't played yet, but I'm going to be playing that after we beat Final Fantasy X. So.
Yeah, I only played a few minutes of 10-2, and that was when it first came out on, like, I think it's the PlayStation 2. And I was like, okay, I can do this, but then time got away from me, and I don't have time to play role-playing games anymore. At least, sit down and trying to get to, like, the next save point, and it's like, okay, how long am I going to take to get to it? And then, just try to judge my time on that.
Yeah. No, honestly, too, that's, like, another reason that I didn't really get to play stuff like that for so long, because I was just so invested in cosplay. And then when I finally went on a hiatus, I finally had time to catch up on those games and whatnot. So, but our RPGs are really good. I'm very interested in trying, when I get a chance, to get my hands on Final Fantasy 15, because I have a lot of friends that cosplay from it, and I hear all the time about how good it is. So I think if I could play one, though, too, that I heard was really good and I wanted to really sink my teeth into, would probably also be 4, 5, and 6. And then I think I've heard 8 and 13 are really good, too.
If I was giving recommendations, it'd be 4, 6, and 9. If you haven't played 9 already. I mean, that's just... after everything with 7 with Cloud and then 8 with the way that those characters were designed, Final Fantasy 9 was such a throwback to like the 16-bit kind of like characters with VV the Black Mage and everything. Is just, it's such a wonderful game. I just think it's overlooked amongst like the PlayStation 2 releases, but it's so good.
Yeah, I'll have to definitely try it out. There was quite a bit of games I missed growing up in the PS1 and 64 era, and another one too that my friend still eggs me to this day to play. I heard is really good is Legend of Dragoon. I've heard that game is really spectacular. But kind of speaking of Square Enix and RPG, Chrono Trigger has also been another favorite Square Enix RPG of mine of all time, and that story is so good, especially when it involves time travel. And then it's the only game where you have a swordsman, a cave woman, a frog knight, a robot, and a dark magician, fight to save time. So it's really good. Definitely worth checking out too. I want to say, I know they re-released it for DS about like 10 years ago or so. And they also, I want to say it's on Virtual Console for Wii U. That too. Oh, and speaking of episodes last time in fandoms, Breath of the Wild is amazing. Oh my God. That's one game I've not been able to put down for the longest time. It just the whole God dog. It really puts you like in a medieval feel to where you have to like constantly find weapons to survive. Because swords eventually break, weapons eventually break, and then just the whole free roam aspect. Oh man, that you could spend weeks on that game.
That's awesome. I've heard good things about it from a lot of people. I know a lot of people initially were turned off by how they made it more of an open world feel, but I think it's more turned around now to where it's just everyone seems to be really supportive of that decision. Yeah,
well, a lot of people don't realize that's actually how the first Legend of Zelda game was back in the NES, and they actually made the first Breath of the Wild demo, which I don't think it was released to the public, but that they were testing, was actually, they put it like in an NES style, just to see how it would translate. And then, of course, they ended up doing that. And then, the rest is history. So
that's awesome. It's definitely something I've never played. I don't really play like action RPG type games like Zelda. It's not something I've ever been able to do. But like Breath of the Wild is the one where I've played it and I'm like, okay, I think I could actually handle this. The same with one of the games that came out for the PlayStation 4 this year, Horizon Zero Dawn, is one of those games where it's like, I can get over whatever issues I have to play this beautiful game.
Yeah, I've heard, I think I had one of my friends play that in front of me when I was visiting her house about a couple months ago, but I hadn't seen too much gameplay from it, but like a lot of my cosplay friends are gamers at heart too, so usually if I need to catch up like on the latest game coming out, I usually just follow my Facebook feed. So
now, one of the things you mentioned is that you are on hiatus, and that's a cosplay hiatus.
Correct. Yeah, cosplay hiatus. Yeah, it's been pretty crazy, honestly.
Is that I follow you on Facebook, so I know what it is, but is it more that just overextending, or just trying to get certain plans done, and then you get up like on that time barrier of, okay, tomorrow's the convention and I'm still not done, and you have to like just overextend yourself even more? Is it just relationships with the people at the conventions? Like, what made you take that step back after like a very successful, I guess, 2016, 2017 con season? Was it just like, what was it that ultimately made you take the step back for the hiatus?
I think what happened when I first realized that something was wrong was I went to Anime Matsuri this past year, and I don't know what it was, but Friday the convention, after I was done and I laid in the hotel room for the night, I was tired too because I didn't sleep much the night before. I just was not feeling the convention, and that had never happened before. But like for some reason, something felt like it was on repeat, and I just didn't, I didn't like how it sat with me, and like I ended up. It was funny too because like after I went to sleep that night, I ended up sleeping for 10 hours at a convention, which is like unheard of because people are always up, or you get maybe like 6 to 8 hours, but never 10. So I kind of noticed there something was wrong. A-Kon kind of felt more like a chore at one point too, because I was like running around. I really started to realize that I had started to really spread myself thin. And it was just one of those things that you realize, like, you know, man, I've been doing 12 to 15 cons a year for the past 2 or 3 years, and like I've not had a time to like stop and smell the roses. And I've kind of been like that my whole life. I've always been like, get up and go, get up and go, get up, you know, got to hustle, got to do whatever you got to do. And I just, I don't think I really had the chance to sit back and enjoy like what I was doing. So, because I was always trying to like look for the next costume I can make, or, you know, to kind of keep relevant. And I'll be honest, cosplay can be an expensive hobby, and, you know, time consuming. You know, there's some people that, you know, they're so addicted to it that they can't afford it. They'll do whatever they can to make it happen. And it was just a combination of that and like a lot of personal stuff I was dealing with at the time. I think I got upset at myself because I wasn't where I wanted to be, even though I didn't realize the growth that I did have looking back on it now. I just wasn't where I wanted to be, and I got really frustrated with that. And it was a combination of also the fact that I had worked so much too, because I've been at the same job for 3 years now, but I think the combination really started catching up with me, because I normally work anywhere from 50 to 55 hours a week, especially now that I got promoted to management assistant, sometimes more. So a combination of that, you know, traveling and whatnot, it just got to the point to where it really started to bug me. And that over the summer too, after A-Kon, I've been trying to work on a project to get done for Anime Fest, and it just didn't get done. And like, you know, I was driving up to Spring every weekend to help my friend with it, and we just didn't get done. It just got really stressful, and I think it was a good time to really just, you know, to really just slow down, and decided it was best to take a break for a little bit. Not to mention too, like the last 2 conventions that I did, not including Onicon, but San Japan and Anime Fest, I was dreading to go to the conventions, which it sounds weird, you know, for somebody who's so advocate and passionate about cosplay, but I think the anxiety and the stress had got to me so much that I was just like, oh God. But of course, once I got to the convention, everything was fine because I had fun, and then my friends were there, and it took my mind off of it. But it's very easy to let that stress get to you, especially if you're trying to complete something before the con, and especially if you have as little as time as I do. You know, that kind of compounds the effect. So I think it was just like another thing where I was putting cosplay before taking care of myself too. And that's one thing I really needed to focus on at the moment. So that being said, I don't think I could ever completely walk away from cosplay though. I've made so many good friends in the community. It's where I met my girlfriend. It's done a lot of good things for me. You know, both cosplay and conventions. I've been able to meet a lot of people that I feel connected with compared to anybody I've ever met in school. It's just, I don't think it's something I can completely ever walk away. Not to mention, too, financially, it's helped me as well. You know, of course, now I get to save more money, and I can, if I choose to move, you know, to Houston or Dallas, I can do that now. And it's just one of those things that, like, I got to be thinking about the future, too, before I can really get too caught up in the present. So,
definitely. One of the things that I wanted to ask you that also happened last year, and it's something that I've been trying to work on to get an episode out, and it just didn't come to fruition, was what did you think about the new Power Rangers movie?
I saw the release when it came out. I wasn't really sure what to expect because the suits had kind of bugged me from the start. Of course, I mean, I'm an old school fan, so sometimes I'll prefer the old school before the new school, but I think the suits were a little too flashy. But, you know, when you watch the movie and it kind of made sense of why the suits look like that, then I kind of eased off on it. As far as the plot though and the characters, I loved it. I thought it was more contemporary feel. It was very contemporary to the point that it made you really relatable. Just like if you were growing up a kid in the 90s, you would relate to the characters, you know, on Power Rangers then. So I think it did a good job of keeping the concept and keeping the spirit of Power Rangers and, you know, the overall feel of it. So I think aside from, you know, the suits, I like the movie. I definitely wouldn't mind seeing it again. I haven't seen it since it was in theaters, but I thought it was good.
Yeah, I really liked it too, and I liked the way that they did the characters. I remember reading a review of it after I'd watched it, and somebody said it's Breakfast Club for like the first, hour and a half, and then it's Power Rangers for like the last 10 minutes.
Well, I mean, I guess that could be a feasible point, but at the same time, for me, I've always been, especially because this is coming from somebody that at one point wanted to be a video game developer. I think character development and plot development is key to any movie, to any anime series, to anything. I guess I could see if it felt like it was spent too much on the on them growing up and stuff like that. But I think they were just really trying to do that to make the characters more relatable. And at the same time, they were trying to compound the origin into the movie. How the Power Rangers got their powers, what happened to Rita. It's a lot of things. It's a lot of time to fit in that time frame. And I think if you did it too fast, then you would just be like, well, what the heck's going on? So
yeah, I love the movie. I love the characters. My favorite character in the original TV show was Billy. And again, he's the one that I gravitated towards the most in the movie was Billy. I loved his character out of all of them.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I really like the way they did Billy too. And, I was a fan of Jason's character. And I honestly, I thought Bryan Cranston, did a phenomenal job as Zordon. And when I saw that they casted him, I knew he was going to bring a unique feel to it in a good way. And, it far exceeded my expectations. So I really thought they did a really good job with this character.
Yeah, I'm hoping for a sequel. I'd love to see them do something, see what happens next if they get that chance.
Yeah, I hope so too. I could be wrong, but I remember reading an article because they said it was all going to be based on how they did well in Japan, and I don't think they did well in Japan. I mean, I could be wrong. This was just something I thought I glanced over earlier this year. There may not be a sequel, but I hope that isn't the case.
Yeah, I know initially they had said something about, the box office wasn't as good, but then the DVD sales were crazy. I think it was the number one DVD sales for at least 2 or 3 weeks after it came out. And, hopefully between that and whatever, other business they do outside the United States can push them towards okay, we've made enough money to warrant doing a second movie. And I'd love to see what they do if they go with the Green Ranger, they hint at with Tommy, what they do with Tommy, whether it's, a traditional male character or if they go, I know a lot of people were commenting after the movie came out, hey, do a female Tommy and, have a girl character there.
Yeah. I tell you what, I remember I had posted that, because they were talking about it. I remember there was such a huge outcry and backlash. I didn't get it. I didn't get why people were so up in arms about, a female Green Ranger. I was all for it. I thought if they could keep the same quality of the characters and maybe, if they had to switch the gender, I mean, that doesn't really change anything. And then this is its own adaptation. This is not 1993. It's 2017. Times have changed. Things have changed. Culture has changed. Society has changed. I mean, I thought it would have been cool. I really thought it would have been a really good twist, whatever they decide to do. And I mean, at the same time, this is not, it's not JDF's role. I mean, it's whoever's going to be the Green Ranger's role. I mean, don't get me wrong. JDF is forever probably going to be known as the Green Ranger because he's the most popular incarnation. But I think a lot of people were just doing too much of a comparison from the old to the new without giving the new a chance.
Right, exactly. I think that's initially probably what turned off some people, and I hope that they were able to see the movie and at least give it the chance it deserves to gain them as a new viewer or a watcher or whatnot. So we're having this episode come out in December. We're looking back at 2017, but looking forward to next year, 2018. What is there anything that you're looking forward to? Whether it's movie, TV show, video game, cosplay. What are you looking forward to the most in 2018 for yourself?
Man, I'll be honest. I've even, a lot of people have asked me this too. They've asked me, hey, when will you come back from hiatus? Honestly, I may not even be till 2019. There's just a lot of, stuff that I'm trying to sort out. Not necessarily bad stuff, but I mean, just I'll be honest, I have not been this relaxed or stress free in a long time. And it's, I mean, I love cosplay. I really do. I mean, I got the chance to, go to Onicon this past weekend. And I think that for sure solidified that I would never walk away from cosplay or completely, mainly because I had a very light schedule. I did the best I could with what I had, for Waka and revamping him, for this con. People loved it. I got to see all my friends. I got to hang out and just chill. And I think that's what made cons and cosplay fun for me in the first place. And I don't know where I got off track from that, but that's what I'm working towards to get back to. As far as 2018 goes, I mean, just definitely relaxing, revamping myself. I've kind of kept it on the DL. I still craft though while I'm on hiatus. My main thing is hiatus is, a lot of people are like, oh, well, you still dress up in cosplay and whatnot. But like, to kind of set the record straight here and now, as far as hiatus, I meant an active con schedule. I mean, trust me, 12 to 15 cons a year, even though some of those are guest con appearances or one-dayers, that schedule gets old really quick, especially if you've been at it as long as I have, for almost 2 or 3 years. But another reason too, I kept my social media intact because I never stopped getting inspired by my fellow cosplayers or other people that I happen to come across Instagram or Facebook. And that's just something that just it's going to make the comeback even sweeter. I definitely got, a few tricks on my sleeve that I won't give away just yet. But there's a couple of cosplays that I kind of want to push myself to the limit to when I do come back, as far as that goes. As far as cons, if there is a con, I am going to come back to, it's not going to be a Texas one. It's going to be, Anime Central in Chicago, which, that was actually my first out of state con that I got to go to. I had a lot of fun. It was very cool. Chicago has a lot of love for fighting games. I found out, mainly because of the fighting game cosplays that I took over there. The people that were so nice. I've made a lot of friends, in Chicago. Actually, one of them I was talking to before the podcast. I've been able to keep in contact with some really cool people. As far as that goes, I've been inspired by them too. I might be able to try to achieve a goal next year. I actually might try to go to Japan in the fall. That's another reason why I'm also on hiatus too. It's just to kind of prepare myself for that. Yeah, right now I'm just kind of focusing on my career too, and then doing self-improvement. Trying to get back into shape. I feel like another reason that's where we're kind of burned out with cosplay is I'm not where I want to be as far as that goes too, and not only just for cosplay reasons, but I got to do it to take care of myself too. So there's that. Yeah, I mean, just whatever life brings. I still kind of talk to all my cosplay friends and whatnot, so I'm still kind of somewhat active in the community. I still do photo shoots outside of cons too. I haven't been burned out from that because since I'm kind of semi-active on social media at the moment, I feel like I do want to show people that I'm still there, even though I may not be at the convention. So, yeah, and hopefully this is another thing I didn't really get to talk about too much either, but hopefully by then we'll do more filming with the Power Rangers fan film that I'm going to be a part of. So,
right, I was going to ask about that.
Yeah, we actually did the teaser earlier this year in April. We kind of had I wouldn't say cut production short, but we had to kind of stop production for the time being, for, casting changes and whatnot. So, but as far as I know, it is going to pick back up in the future. And unless that changes, then, it is what it is. But, it was very fun, mainly because, I used to voice act before I got into cosplay, as well. So, and then I did a couple, short films when I was in college and high school. It just really put me back in the, back in the acting mind frame, especially because even, when I cosplay, I'm always an entertainer first before a cosplayer. So I'll do my best to act in character, do the voice and whatnot and such. As far as that goes too, I've also been kind of slowly getting back into voice acting. I'm actually picking up on a project that I used to work on, which is an adaptation of the Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo game, which combines elements of voice acting, fighting game, and sprite comics. So, some of the friends I made before cosplay, we actually voice act together. And one of my friends, if it wasn't for him, I would have not cosplayed in the first place. So it's kind of a full circle kind of thing. So be on the lookout for that too.
Awesome. That it seems like if things start going into place as far as like the Power Ranger film and everything else, you are going to, even you're on hiatus, you're going to be very, very busy this coming year.
Yeah, for sure. It always seems to be like that. I'll try to take a break and just something always just comes. I guess that's just one of the won't say a downfall, but one of the things about being creative, you know, especially if you got your hands in a lot of different bowls, and it tends to happen like that.
Definitely. And you've got a great community and great support in the Texas area that definitely want to do things with you. And that's always like, you know, I know how persistent people can be about wanting to have you, like, you know, be involved in something. And it's definitely like, I don't want to say no to so-and-so. And, you know, you're like, okay, I'll do this for you.
Yeah. Oh man, I can't even begin to describe. There's so much stuff that, like, you know, people want me to do, and I'm just like, oh, but like, you know, I gotta say no sometimes. It's for the best, and it's okay to say no, because I know most of the time they'll understand too why I'm doing what I'm doing. And actually, a friend of mine at Onicon said he respected me doing for what I do, because, like, you know, he knew that I wasn't happy, and then there's other things I just had to take care of, and, you know, it's just one of those things you got to take care of priorities. But it's kind of a funny story too. A lot of people don't know this. I'm not going to say it here on the podcast too. So for San Japan, that was supposed to be my last convention as far as attending. I had planned to do Waka, and I was a little heartbroken because later I found out that San Japan that year was Final Fantasy themed, and of course I didn't get to do Waka. So what happened was, this was right after the hurricane, and, you know, the gas shortage was happening, or there really wasn't a gas shortage. There was more people panicking, causing a gas shortage in Texas. So what happened was that day work, I wasn't even in a rush to leave either. I was like, you know, I got everything that I need to take care of. I unloaded Waka's wig and his armor from the car because I didn't want it to melt, because at that time it was still like 90, 100 degree weather. And so I left it in the office. And before I got off of work that day, because it's a 2-hour drive to San Antonio from where I work and where I live, I was like, okay, I can't forget Waka stuff before I clock out and go. And so I get to my friend's house, which is like a 2.5-hour drive, and we start unloading everything, because the plan was he was about 30 to 20 minutes from the con. So he was kind enough to let me crash for the night. So he let me crash there. And we unloaded everything. And I was like, oh crap. He's like, where's your Waka stuff? And I just realized, I was like, oh my God, I left it in the office. And I was just kicking myself so bad. And I just don't think I was meant to cosplay Waka that weekend. The reason that being said, because of the gas shortage, it would have been a 5-hour round trip just to try to pick that stuff and come back. And then, you know, especially trying to find gas on the way. And I even tried to get a coworker to meet me there. To where she could maybe meet me halfway. She had keys to the branch, but her keys were locked inside the branch. Because I forgot what happened with that situation, but I think the branch manager ended up locking up, and she forgot her keys there. So, I was so salty too, because like the first cosplayers I saw were Riku and Orn from Final Fantasy X, and nobody ever does Final Fantasy 1 Riku, and my friend Marls did Riku, and I was like, oh, I was kicking myself so bad. I was so distraught. I was like, this is the way to start my hiatus. So what happened then, I had actually organized the Final Fantasy X shoot, and it didn't happen. Oh, I mean, it happened, but without me. So I was like, you know, I told a couple of the people, like, you know, if you guys do go to Onicon, I'm willing to come out of hiatus for that one day so I can shoot with you guys. So, which was good. And it did happen this past weekend, and I'm very thankful it did, because if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't have gone to Onicon, not only to shoot that in better scenery because it was on the beach, but there was another cosplay I had been working on kind of on the side for a while too, and my friend wanted to shoot. I ended up doing a formal version of Ryu from Street Fighter Alpha. I had a white tux, white shoes, you know, spats and everything like that. So, because initially earlier that year, in 2017, my friend, she did the black dress from Street Fighter 5 for Chun-Li. And we had planned to do a formal shoot together, kind of like a black dress, white suit kind of theme. And then it didn't end up happening at first because I was on hiatus, and then I was also trying to film at the time. And San Japan was gonna be it. That was gonna be the last con for a good while. And then of course everything happened at San Japan, so I was able to redo the idea, and we got the shoot it done, and yeah, it was a lot of fun. So it really reminded me why I would never walk away from cosplay. And, you know, cons and cosplay can be fun if you make it fun. So
definitely, I think that's probably one of the best quotes that if I pulled a quote out of the show, that would be it, like right there.
Yeah, it's just one of those things you got to remind yourself too. Like you can't, stress about stuff like that. And I think that's another reason why I burned out so much too. I was focused on quantity and not quality. And then, I learned that with Waka too. Like, even, there's still some stuff I got to remake with Waka too, but because I kept getting better and just focusing on that one cosplay, like it helps. You don't want to spread yourself too thin, and you want to do the best that you can with what you do have. And, you can't stress about that. Like, oh, I have all these, I need all these cosplays that need to get done. Well, I'm going to tell you this, like 5 half-ass cosplays does not equal 1 good cosplay. I've learned that the hard way. So, you got to do what you can and just, be thankful for what you have and be thankful for what you can do. And then eventually it'll all come together.
Absolutely. If people are listening and they're not following you on social media, what are some of the best places to do so? Even though you're in hiatus, I know that you're posting.
Right.
So where can they go?
Yeah, right now. So I'm actually, so Instagram would be the best place right now, which is Stryfe the Warrior, all one word. And then of course, my Facebook page too. I'm actually also, another reason why I'm on hiatus too, is I also want to bring up other cosplayers around me. So I've been trying to, I've kind of fell off these past couple of weeks, but I'm trying to get back on it, which is actually a good reminder. I do a feature or follow Friday where I'll post a cosplayer both on Instagram and Facebook, giving them a shout out and just, showing them that like, we can support each other. And I like this guy or this girl stuff, and I think they're cool. So, but those are definitely the two places to get me the most at. Now, if you're interested for my voice acting stuff, although it's not as oftenly updated, if you go to youtube.com/StryfeAGreatWarrior, that is my voice acting channel. I'm hoping to get more Street Fighter Project stuff up there pretty soon, especially while I'm on hiatus. So be sure to catch me there too.
Awesome. Well, everybody, it'll be in the show notes and on our Facebook page and website for easy clickable links so you can follow Jeremy while he's doing his stuff and bringing up cosplayers and talking about like cosplay life and everything else. And Jeremy, thank you so much for making the time to come back on and just talk to me about what you've been doing since we last talked.
Thanks, David. Thanks for having me back again. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you for listening to Tales from the Fandom. Subscribe to us on iTunes or your podcast app of choice. Follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/Tales from the Fandom to see photos, links, leave feedback, and check out upcoming guests. If you'd like to be a guest, email David at talesfromthefandom@gmail.com.